Chatting with Gas Allen. Chatting with Gas Allen. Thank you for joining us for Chats with Cass Allen. This is Cass Allen. Hello to everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. The topic of today is the living. And when we speak of the living, we're speaking of the living experience of humans. It's kind of difficult to define that because everybody has a definition. We can talk about living in so far as being alive anatomically and having breath. We can also speak to living because some people say you're not alive unless you're actually out here experiencing your life fully. So we can speak to all of that today. And some people define living as living your life out loud. Some define it as living your life unapologetically. It could be a combo as well. Living from the present perspective and the future as well. In the past, we often live in our minds. We tend to learn from the past. We tend to reflect in the past. A lot of times we're making decisions for the present and the future, and we gauge the past to help us identify trends and combinations to avoid pitfalls and have current and present more positive outcomes. We also reflect in the past to sort out our feelings. Sometimes there are unresolved things from the past that we revisit in order to deal with them. Some of us live in the past in pain because of things we've been through. We have a hard time getting over them and bringing ourselves to the present. Some of us live in our heads in the past, remembering things that have happened to us even for the good, and perhaps distorting our current version of what's happening. We judge the living, and we also desire life. I don't know many people who don't desire life. I'm not going to go too deep on that because I don't want to touch on things that maybe trigger people in other ways that are not related to life. But I will say that, insofar as living, I personally feel that we need a combination of all three. They are our parallel universes, our past, our present, and our future, because we're thinking about all of them and living in all of them to some degree at the same time. We're constantly going in the past for things to support our present. We're constantly seeking in the present to support our future. So whether you want to see them as parallel or not, there's definitely a connection between the three that we describe as life. We talk about things we've been through in the past to avoid people from making the same mistakes as they're living their current lives. We'll be right back. Whatever your case for being in the past, hopefully is to, like I said, look back in that rearview mirror to make sure everything's good moving forward. Myself have been in the past in my head at times in my life, and I've been there too long, in my opinion. I know we all say, there's no time limit on what we're doing in any area, but we have to be mindful. First of all, life is not forever, so there is a time limit on things. Let's say you got 10 years to live. Do you want to spend 9 depressed, living in your head, and then suddenly decide, hey, I want to be in the present. Now I got 10% of my life that I'm going to live in the present, and wishing you had more. People don't get that concept, and I'm not trying to push an agenda. I'm simply having a conversation. As you age, you don't get to go back. You just get to sit there and wish for the things you didn't do. Or you sit there in your head living in the past when you should be living today. And like I said, we all have time limits for ourselves. I'm not telling anybody to not be in the past for a month, a year, whatever. I'm simply saying be aware of how you're living your life because you don't get it back. We'll be right back. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Chats with Cass Allen. Today we're talking about living. We've been on the topic of living in the past and, finding that balance between going back there to gather up resources and tools to steer today's ship and not get lost in the treasure trunk and forget what we're doing today. How's that for a way to sum that up? Good segue into now, in our current lives, we live in moments. Everything's a moment. We're engaging with living things and organisms all around us, right? Moments, nature, relationships, people, places, and things, basically, is what's happening around us. And we're pulling from these things, pulling from these arsenals of things around us to set conditions for the lives that we want to live. We're pulling our treasures. May it be people that make us happy, or sites that we like to see in our home, or the style of home we want, or the type of activities that we experience in our present, which we're seeking something, or we wouldn't be doing shit, correct? We'd just be sitting on our asses being Plato. Even doing that, a lot of times when people are sitting on their asses, they still want something. They want food, they want a television, a game, a lap dance, whatever. People tend to want things at all times, in their present. Sometimes while we're wanting for our present, we begin to drift into our past because we're not happy with our present. So we start reminiscing about things that made us happy in our past. And then sometimes we slip away into that past instead of staying focused on the things that need to be done today. Like I said, the past is a part of life. We all have experiences. Every single one of us, the older we get, the more we have. That's just a given. We've all had many, many moments, if we're blessed, to be of age, of adulthood even. Not even talking about 50, 60, 70, 80, just making it to teen age years. You're getting a lot of days. There's a lot of days in the year. We're getting a lot of days. It's your first 10 years, you got 3,600 plus. That's a lot of days. So to be in your present moments and afford yourself the current moment, which is a part of a day, which becomes your past at some time that you're going to reflect on and learn from, or either reflect on and say, damn, that was fun. That's why you got to be careful of your present moments. And y'all know I always use myself as an example. There was a time in my life I stopped thinking about my present. I was so caught up with my past and the things that I regretted in my past that I was not paying attention to what I was doing in my current. My moments weren't being valued because I was too busy in the past. I didn't even notice nature because I wasn't paying attention. My relationships weren't being nurtured because I wasn't there. We'll be right back. And one day, things shattered around me and I realized I wasn't in the present. I wasn't there. I was so busy in the past that I didn't even realize that things in my present were dissolving right around me. And like I said, there's no time limit on things, but there really is, because you don't have a lot of time, and I woke up and fortunately I did get in my present, which is why I'm here today, entertaining y'all through the things that make me happy, because I'm staying in my present. I'm staying in my present way of life instead of a life that others have dreamed for me, or a life I wish that I had, or a life I regret parts of. I've learned to enjoy now fully. Let me retract that. I won't say I've learned because I used to be like that. I lost it, but I found it again. And, I'm sending this message out to all of you who lose your presence. There was a time in my life where that's all I did. I was in my damn head all the time for the wrong reasons, though. I wasn't in there calculating. I wasn't in there creating. I wasn't in there with ideation. I wasn't in there doing things that were anything relative to current. I was just lamenting. And yes, I needed my time, but at some point I had to come back to the present. And that's how I healed, by dealing with what was going on in my present. I also said I would touch on the future. We live in the future in our heads too. We fantasize about things we want. We play out things in our head. The whole damn act of the whole dynamics of energies with people. We think it all out, fantasies, all kinds of shit. We daydream about jobs that we want, positions we want to play, property we want to buy, things we want to have. We plan out these things. We do things in our present to achieve those future goals and meet those things in our aspirations, materialize our dreams. We in the future before we get there. That's how we map out what we want and how we want our trees to grow based on what we planted in our present and what we planted in our past. We'll be right back. We even meet our future in dreams, not just reality. I mean, like I said, I'm the example. I personally have had dreams in the past that have come true, either as soon as I wake up or later on in life. I'm sure y'all been there too. I'm in the present and I'm dreaming of the future. Would you not qualify that as parallel processing or what? I say that to say, we got to think beyond just getting up and functioning in our day to day that we're designed to do. Get up and meet your requirements and feel fulfilled. And if you don't meet them, consider yourself a failure. That's not life. I read something, I think it was today, it could have been yesterday. It's been one long day for me, about we're already where we're supposed to be. It's just up to us to use the tools around us. We already who we are. We are already who we are. Hear me. You just got to reach out in your environment, as I said, and grab your tools and resources to mold your clay. We'll be right back. Thank you for joining me for Chats with Cass Allen. We've been talking on the topic of the living. We've covered many definitions depending on the angle that we're speaking on. We talked about the past, reflecting and learning from it. We talked about the present moments and how we exist in our current conditions. And we also discussed the future as it related to goals and aspirations. And we took a little tangle with connecting them all and discussing parallel universes. That's not just all there is. What we think is exactly what it says. Living, it's how we live. In our living experiences, we talked about a connection to people, places, and things. How we live is a reflection of us, not a reflection of the people around us. And sometimes I have forgotten that. We all have different realities. We all have different principles, different upbringings, different cultures. And we always look at each other through our own mirrors instead of just looking through the window. I know y'all heard me. We look at people through our own mirrors instead of just looking through the window pane like we do with everything else in nature that's different from us and appreciating the beauty. I understand if you get incensed about things that are hateful, detrimental, but we get mad about things that have nothing to do with us, that are not harming people, just because we can't relate to it. Just because of the way we have lived our lives, we don't understand why someone else is choosing a life different from ours. We'll be right back. So as we're living this life that we've been discussing and living the things that we believe are important to us, we can take other twists on that. Like I said, like living out loud. Some people believe you're not living unless you're living out loud, meaning living your life with transparency, no secrets, connecting to everyone in your authentic self, regardless of how they feel about it. Some people believe that living is living unapologetically. Um, again, being in your true self and not worrying about how people feel about what you say or do. Unfortunately, that can lead to a lot of hurt feelings if there's no compassion mixed in those dynamics. Um, I personally believe that you have to live unapologetically. You have to live out loud. You have to live in your present. You have to reflect in your past and learn how to apply it to your present and your future. And you have to pay attention to your future to some degree. Yeah, I say we're already who we are, but I also say we have resources and tools to set our conditions. It's not always easy. I can remember my maternal grandmother owned so much land, I can't even put a acreage on it, so I'm not going to try. And she tilled her own land and grew her own stuff. And I remember being with her in the South one day sitting on the porch, and she came outside because she saw dust coming up the roadway. So she knew people were coming. And she had a rifle in her hand and she had it propped next to her. And a handful of Caucasian men got out of a pickup truck and they asked her if she would like them to drop spray on her crops. And she said, no, thank you. Proudly, living in her moment. And I was very young, but I remember it. And I remember saying to myself, wow, they want what my grandma has, but my grandma ain't going to give it up. And I remember thinking in my head, that's what's up, you know. I said, she's living her life and there's something she doesn't want, and she's not going to let these people bully her into changing her mind. That's my definition of living in the moment, based on your conditions and using the tools around you. In her case, it was her mouth and her firearms, um, to set her relationships with these men. She let them know that her goals had nothing to do with their spray. She followed through. She stood there for a moment and reflected before she answered. You understand what I'm saying? I just applied everything we discussed in a story about my grandma, you know, about living. Um, I didn't think about fancy clothes back then. I felt like I was living my best life, and we'll be right back. You've been listening to Cass Allen on Chats with Cass Allen. Thank you for joining us this evening. We've been talking about the living. Y'all know me when I do my show. I'm always all over the place. So if you hear background noise, excuse me. I'm in the company of others, and I normally don't ask people to be quiet because I let people do their thing. Shit, that's what living is all about, right? So thank you for understanding what's going on tonight. Um, as I speak of living, life is about give and take, right? It's about balance. Like you see all over social media, it's about knowing when to hold on and when to let go, you know, when to move and when to be still, when to talk and when to listen. We could go on and on. When to cry, when to laugh, when to be good, when to be bad. Everything we do has a place in life. You know, a lot of times we go through our lives and we have thoughts and we don't follow through on them because we're afraid to live our lives. We're afraid of failure. We're afraid of what people might think. We're afraid of whatever keeps us from being our authentic selves. Um, there are people out here who are alive, but they don't do anything. Some people say, oh, that person's not living because they haven't traveled the world, but maybe that person feels alive just playing in the dirt. You know, it's not for us to judge each other's experiences. What it is important that we do if we want to be a healthy society is to understand, like I said from the beginning, everybody comes to the table with different life experiences, and we have no right to make fun of each other because they're different. We need to learn to accept that just like the flowers, there's a garden outside of where I am now with about 12 of the same flower on a bush. However, the majority of them are different colors and sizes, and they've come at different times, yet they're all beautiful. So, why can't we apply that to ourselves? Why can't we say, this person's living their life? Yes, this person's living their life, that person's living their life, and just let those flowers grow. They ain't fucking bothering you most of the time. We impose our experiences and harm each other and tear down our nation over dumb shit because we want everybody to live the way we think life is designed to live. Or we want people to live the way we want them to live. As long as we keep thinking that way, we're going to always be a segregated nation. It's not about segregation in across the races. People are segregated as a whole because they're so ingrained in this me perspective that they've forgotten that they are links in a chain. When you rattle the ocean with a pebble, many waves produce. Your actions reflect on others. You may think you're living alone, but you're not. We'll be right back. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Chats with Cass Allen. It's nice to be chatting with you all this week. The topic is the living, and I'm doing all the chatting about life. We're in the holidays. We're a few days away from a major holiday for many, especially the children. Normally, when I discuss Christmas, it's normally people who talk about children and how happy it makes them. These children are living out loud. They're happy as hell. They're asking for stuff. They're getting stuff. We're showing them how much we love them. We're aiding in them having wonderful life experiences, getting the things that they've asked for, helping their present moments to be more special. A lot of us say we don't believe in Christmas personally, but most people I know who have children that don't have religious reasons and, really strong principles about it will celebrate for the children. That's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about living in the moments. Sometimes you got to do things that you might not even want to do if you go on your own, but you do them for the people you love. You do them based on the conditions around you. There are things I've wanted to do in my life that I altered, that I considered me living, and I made sacrifices to help others. And now I'm at a point in my life where I feel like, I've done enough living for others on a primary basis, and it's time to live for Cass Allen. So, as I've told you all before, that's why you see all these projects popping up, because they're authentically me. I've spent many years doing things, not all that I didn't want to do, but a lot of it was more to make other people happy. And I enjoyed my life, don't get me wrong, but I wasn't focusing on the things that light my fire and make me fly like a dragon. You understand me? Even though I've always been good at the things I do, because God blessed me with ability. I want to do the things that make me feel whole and full and come alive. In my case, that would be my art, my music, my writing, mathematics. I've told you all this time and time again. I've found ways to stop being so shy. And when I wasn't doing those things, I didn't feel alive. I mean, I was applying my mathematics in my, career because I've been a scientist and an analyst most of my life, which most people don't know because I'm acting the fool. They think this child don't have a brain, but I do have a brain. Um, and I've been growing it to my best abilities. And let's touch on that. Best abilities. Life is not about perfection. It's just about doing your best, man. None of us are perfect. None of us are gonna completely satisfy anybody in our lives while we're living them. But we gotta live. We'll be right back. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Chats with Cass Allen. You've been chatting with Cass Allen, and we've been talking about living from all kinds of perspectives. Before the commercial break, we were talking about living fully and wholly, and not being afraid to answer your heartbeat. Many of us, I've heard people say, nah, people gonna laugh at me. Nah, I wanted to do that, but I can't. Nah, nah, nah. Stop that, y'all. A baby gotta crawl before it walk. You can't just slam down on stuff and be an expert. If there's something you want to do, go do it. I don't care what it is. Live your life. I'm not going to drag y'all out with an hour episode because I'm not feeling that tonight. I just feel like giving the word. Live your life. Your life is not about living compared to others. Oh, I'm not living because this one's doing XYZ that seems so much more exuberating and exciting. Stop looking then. If it's making you feel that way and just focus on you and the things that make you happy. If you want to pick up a coloring book and sit there for 4 hours, do it. You want to read for 6 hours, do it. If you got the time, you want to ride a horse, do it. I got a friend who has a son who she said he's the most interesting person because he does whatever he wants to do. She said he runs around in costumes. Grown ass man puts on all kinds of different costumes from movies and appears places to make people laugh. He got a job, he got a relationship, he's smart and healthy, but he enjoys it. And she said people used to laugh at him, and now people are like joining him in his crusades. He didn't let anybody stop him from living to his authentic beat. And now he got other heartbeats that are inspired by him. And that's what I'm talking about. There are people out there who challenge what I do. Like, come on, yo, you're almost 60 years old. Why you out here singing and acting and shit? Guess what? Because I fucking can and I want to and I'm having fun living my life. It's just that simple. Ain't nothing to do with age. I sing because I had a couple of mini strokes and it affected my speech at the time and it makes me feel good to sing, but I didn't have to tell nobody that. You understand what I'm saying? That's what I do to keep myself going. I act because I've always wanted to act ever since I was a kid. When I was 9 years old, I did some acting for my family and I had the best time of my life and I never did it again because I was shy, and not living my life, worried about what people are going to say. But now I don't care and I'm free and I'm happy. I say this to encourage all of you, live your life. We'll be right back. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Chats with Cass Allen. You've been listening to Cass Allen, and we've been talking about living. Um, I simply wanted to spend some time connecting with you all from my heart. I think a lot, as a lot of us do, and I think it's important that we share with each other. That's how we connect. So here I am. Good night. shots with Cass Allen. We took a little break so that you all could top off your beverages for this final slide with Preacher G and I. She's about to bless us with some more of her words to close out the show.
Okay. So this is my poem about planets. So says, who do I have to talk to when my spaceship is stuck in between each world? What am I to do when my head is taking a twirl? Planet Drugs was the one I used to escape to the most, where depression and sadness was the theme and crack was the host. See, on this planet, we were all the same and thought the answer was in the high, never really realizing how much we seemed to cry. Just walking around like zombies in a show. What we were searching for, nobody really knows. See, every problem had the same conclusion: cover up emotions and feelings. Drugs were the solution. Now, planet recovery was where my spaceship landed next. Like a planet of staying clean was the ultimate test. Now I had to talk and act just like other people did. I had to show emotions even when I wish I could have run and hid. This time the tears were flowing just like a river. The dam had been broken and I began to quiver. See, I had always been afraid of what would come when there were no more drugs. Somehow I thought it was a world full of hugs. But boy, was I wrong. It was self esteem and self acceptance, confidence, and more. It was time for my feet to start running and my knees to hit the floor. It was about guilt and forgiveness and many tears. It was where you begin to pray and started facing all your fears. It was about not making it through the day, just getting through 1 hour. It was where your faith took a turn and you started trusting in a higher power. Now, Planet Normal was the final of my stops. Ah, it was like one big mall with so many shops. I didn't know what normal looked like. I needed someone to give me there was a okay. Planet Normal was the final of my stops. It was like one big mall with so many shops. There was a store for everything. How do I choose? I didn't know what normal looked like. I needed someone to give me clues. Was it being straight and married with a white picket fence? But I knew I was a lesbian, so that didn't make any sense. Maybe I should just be what society told me to be. That didn't make sense when I looked in the mirror and I saw me. I definitely wasn't skinny and my hair wasn't long. But what I did see definitely wasn't wrong. I saw a woman who had been through some stuff. She was kind, caring, but mostly she was tough. She was a mother, a grandmother, a sister, a daughter, a friend. She was a God fearing woman, and that would never end. So I decided my normal wouldn't be so hard. It wasn't as if there was a thing called a normal God. My normal now is just to be me, to be grateful for my planets of destiny, to hopefully be pleasing in my Father's eye, so that my last stop will definitely be in paradise.
Ladies and gentlemen, and
Hello?
wasn't that a blessing? On a scale of 1 to 10, wasn't that a 36? Didn't we go up one? Tell the truth. You've been chatting with Cass Allen and Preacher G, and this has been a blessing. And I'm going to take a real bold chance and say we'll both be back for episode 3.